how can you maintain a win rate of almost 70% in Challenger? This Draven player is truly something special since they managed to do exactly that. Firmly placed in Challenger Elo and they simply keep winning. While seeing massive win rates on Smurf accounts is nothing out of the ordinary, their numbers usually start dropping hard once they reach the highest level of play. But this Draven player is just something else. In fact, they managed to climb from unranked to Challenger in roughly 2 weeks, only to then keep crushing it on the high Challenger ladder. It's been more than a month at this point, and seemingly no one is able to stop them. But what are they doing differently compared to other Draven mains? What can you learn from players like this, and what are the strategies you should implement in your own games? Well, after looking at numerous replays, I think I have the answer for you, so get ready. The truly interesting part here is that on a surface level, this Draven seems to be exactly like your stereotypical Draven main. Hyper-aggressive with no off switch, constantly looking for fights whenever possible. But once you take a closer look, you will see that unlike the typical Draven main, this player's aggressive calls actually work most of the time because they are definitely not random. Additionally, I've also never seen a Draven player before who uses their E-spell in such efficient ways. It is definitely the most interesting ability in Draven's kit, and I will show you exactly what I mean in a second, but first we need to talk about your minimap. IRL. Giving potential hackers access to your information is a huge problem for cybersecurity. With this video's sponsor ExpressVPN, however, your minimap stays encrypted and hackers will have no chance to do you any harm. But that's just one of the many advantages you get from using ExpressVPN. Did you know that the internet actually discriminates against specific countries and regions? When you buy a new game on Steam, for example, or even when you do something as simple as creating a Netflix account, you might get charged way more than people in other countries depending on your current location. With ExpressVPN, you will always get the best deal by connecting to a server in a different country, and this way you also get around internet censorship, for example unblocking shows on Netflix that are normally unavailable in your region. Trust me, ever since I've tried watching South Park during my time in Scotland, I know how frustrating this is. But the best thing, ExpressVPN offer a 30-day money-back guarantee, no questions asked. So even if you don't end up liking their service, you can always ask for a full refund. Just follow the link in the video description and give ExpressVPN a try. Anyway, as I've said, on a surface level, this Challenger Draven does indeed look like any other, since they too seem to fight and die a lot more than your average AD carry player. The reason for this is, though, that for the most part, these fights are still 100% worth it. Even if you end up dying, chances are you kill the enemy first due to Draven's enormous base stats, and when that happens, you get to cash in with Draven's passive, allowing you to then start snowballing with item advantage. And oh boy, once you get your item advantage on Draven, there is little that can stop you. Even a fed enemy solo laner is no match in a duel if you spend your Draven money on the correct items, and afterwards you can still absolutely slaughter the enemy bot lane in a 1 vs 2, no problem. You just gotta know which items to buy exactly for the perfect power curve and optimal scaling, and to give you a small teaser here, this build fully unlocks Draven's enormous burst potential, allowing you to still be highly useful even when the enemy catches you out of position and manages to lock you down. I will give you more details on the item and rune setup in due time, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. It is arguably even more important to learn about this Challenger Draven's general decision making if you truly want to win more games yourself. Again, simply running forward and trying to kill the enemy before they kill you only works consistently when you do it with a proper plan in mind. A general rule of thumb that our Challenger Draven player follows is that they will avoid engaging in fights when they already start out with numbers disadvantage. In situations like these, they instead use their damage to scare away the opposing aggressor while staying safe themselves. This situation right here probably shows it best, since your average Draven player would simply try to pick off the low health Kha'Zix, but ultimately just die trying without getting anything in return. Kha'Zix is already kiting away, so killing him is almost impossible, and then you would merely get killed by Karma and Caitlyn feeding the lane away. It's never about mindless all-ins, but all about calculated aggression, and keeping this in mind, this Draven Pro purposefully kites backwards using the minion wave for protection. Karma feels safe now because Draven is alone, but as soon as she carelessly walks up to harass him, Draven immediately pulls the trigger and goes in for a safe kill. Again, dying doesn't matter as long as you get your kill first, since then you get full value from Draven's passive. In fact, Draven just barely misses out on a huge 1v2 outplay, but trading for Karma is already extremely good value. Your lane opponents disrespecting your early all-in potential is actually one of the most common mistakes your enemies will make, and you should steadily be looking for ways to punish them for it. Here, Nami and Vayne managed to get lane priority with their jungler's help, but Nami foolishly confuses that for an opportunity to try and go for poke under tower. Draven immediately runs towards her, juggling his axes for massive damage, and despite messing up his positioning, tanking a full Vayne stun in the enemy minion wave, he still comes out ahead due to his enormous base stats. But embracing the all-in playstyle is the easy part. We now have to dig deeper and talk about axes. Having or not having your axes spinning when playing Draven makes a massive difference. It is also the reason why Draven feels so strong in lane, since you can consistently keep up your axes while farming your minion wave. You can go all in at any time whenever it seems favorable without any prior setup, making it very easy to punish your enemy's mistakes. The difficult part though is managing your axes in the mid and late game when spinning your axes comes with an actual opportunity cost. Here you have to be very mindful of when exactly you press Q, and of course in which direction you let your axe bounce. You have to kite in a way that guarantees you can catch your single axe unpunished, since dropping that one axe would mean you are almost useless until your Q comes off cooldown again. The good news here is, however, that this mechanic actually promotes good macro decision making in general. In League of Legends, fighting over nothing is inherently bad and risky, as kills do not win games, but objectives such as dragons and towers do. When fighting for a dragon, for example, Draven can cleanly unlock his full damage potential by setting up his axes while attacking that dragon. This means it will be riskiest for your enemies to challenge you in exactly those situations in which they most desperately need to challenge you, or else they would just lose an objective for free. This is also why Draven can snowball so hard as a champion. Not only do early kills, triggering your passive, set up your team to go for objectives down the road, but the act of taking the objective itself also massively increases your damage potential, putting your enemies in a lose-lose situation. If they don't contest you, they just give up the objective and passively start losing the game, but if they do contest you, they are now walking into a Draven with 3 spinning axes. Whether it's a dragon, a baron, or a tower, as long as you are only fighting in situations that actually matter, it will be easy to set up all your axes for potential all-ins. You could say that Draven's axes encourage you to play the macro game correctly and discourage you from taking random fights in the jungle over nothing. As long as you keep those fundamentally important ADC habits in mind, you can also keep your axes spinning almost effortlessly. It's a win-win for you, 2 birds, 1 stone. But remember when I told you about Draven's E usage? This is probably the most important tool in your entire kit, and using it correctly can make or break a fight. There are 4 different types of E you should have in your repertoire. The Zoning E, the Frame Trap E, Wall E, Wall E, and of course the standard Combo E, which you simply use in between auto attacks to both increase your and decrease the opponent's DPS. This last one is rather straightforward, but I think I should elaborate on the other 3. A Zoning E is thrown out preemptively to prevent your opponents from taking a specific action. Here, for example, it is unclear whether the fed Fiora will keep chasing after Nautilus or abruptly change her direction and go for Draven instead. Since it is impossible to consistently go off of human reaction time here, Draven preemptively throws out his E, which means Fiora is either getting hit and knocked aside if she chases him, or she will be committed to the other pathway, making her an easy target for Draven's ultimate. Long story short, you can put opponents in lose-lose situations by limiting their options this way. But what exactly do I mean when I say Frame Trap E? Well, Draven's E is a rather slowly traveling projectile, allowing you to create a persistent hitbox that can trap the opponent while they are still stuck in any other animation. Depending on the frame data of their move, the timing can be really tight for you, and you might not 100% nail it occasionally, but you get the idea. It is essentially the same as Chain CC, just viewed from a broader angle. My personal favorite though has to be Wall E. It is the easiest to get consistently, but nonetheless extremely effective. Again, Draven's E travels rather slowly, so it is very easy for the enemy to avoid it on reaction. However, when you herd them into a wall beforehand, you can guarantee that your opponent either has to burn their flash, or that you can connect with your E for free. Draven's E is a knock-up effect, which is the strongest form of crowd control in the entire game. Using a wall to make it effectively unavoidable is super powerful, and when you learn to create situations like these, your all-ins become that much more deadly. The opponent is quite literally stuck between a rock and a hard place. Draven's ultimate, however, is much more straightforward. Cannot get in range to auto-attack at the start of a teamfight? Use R as your opener. You can get in range to auto-attack, but then enemies run away with low HP? Execute with R. Team behind? No agency? Steal Dragon with R. Anyway, let's now look at the exact runes and items this challenger player is using, so you can actually put that passive gold to good use as well. The runes are Hail of Blades, Taste of Blood, Eyeball Collection and Ingenious Hunter, with Legend Bloodline and Triumph secondary. I won't lie, I'm kinda proud of myself because this player uses the exact same rune page I recommended in my Draven 5 minutes guide. Hail of Blades is simply the most aggressive early game keystone an auto-attack based all-in champion can take. You can hard punish any mistake with your triple Q auto attack as long as you already got 2 axes spinning, taking your early game pressure to the next level. The other runes should be rather self-explanatory, but we have to briefly talk about the issue of Ingenious Hunter versus Treasure Hunter. While it is true that Treasure Hunter will accelerate your power spikes even more, truth of the matter is that Draven already has more than enough snowballing mechanics in his kit, as I've explained throughout this video. The reason why our challenger Draven main prefers Ingenious Hunter is that for Draven, this rune is an actual damage source. After an early Serrated Dirk, you rush Essence Reaver, instantly fixing all your mana problems while enhancing your burst damage at the same time. Then you finish your core build by upgrading Dirk to Eclipse and Boots to Berserker's Greaves. Lowering your Eclipse cooldown with Ingenious Hunter is quite nice, but the true selling point is still Essence Reaver. Especially with your W cooldown resetting whenever you catch an axe, the Spellblade trigger on this item gets truly spammable, making for a massive DPS increase. From here, this player typically goes for Lord Dominik's Regards, Infinity Edge and Guardian Angel in this exact order. It makes for a perfect transition from early game burst damage to consistent late game DPS, and being able to stand your ground in longer fights is extremely important, especially after the durability update. Also noteworthy is the interaction between Guardian Angel and Ingenious Hunter. When finishing your last item, chances are you will already have collected all 5 Hunter stacks. This drastically reduces Guardian Angel's cooldown, allowing our challenger player to be way more reckless in their decision making than your average AD carry. Trying to learn from the best players in the world is definitely one of the best things you can do if you are serious about improving your own play. But no worries, I got you covered, so if you want to see more of what challenger Draven mains are doing, just click the link on your screen right there.